Let's take you down south, and vote counting is underway in Malawi following Tuesday's presidential election, with the early results from individual polling stations showing former President Peter Mutharika taking an apparent early lead over incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera. Here's what we do know so far.
Initial tallies from various constituencies indicate former President Peter Mutharika is ahead by significant margins. However, these remain partial results from individual stations and not the official count. The Malawi Electoral Commission has until September 24th to announce the presidential results and until September 30th for parliamentary elections. If no candidate achieves more than 50% of the vote, a runoff election will be required under the country's constitutional threshold. 17 candidates contested the presidency, though the race is effectively between 70-year-old Lazarus Chakwera, the incumbent, and 85-year-old Mutharika.
Affection or ill will.
Former President Joyce Banda, the country's only female head of state, also sought a return to office. Pre-election polling by the Institute of Public Opinion and Research showed Mutharika leading with 41% support against Chakwera's 31%, though other polls suggested a closer race between the two candidates. Out of a population of 22 million people, 7.2 million are registered voters, and as it stands, voter turnout in this week's election was at 64%, comparable to the turnout in the 2020 election that gave Chakwera his first term. Malawi is grappling with mounting frustration over its worsening economy. Rising food prices and stagnant wages have left households struggling, while persistent power outages and chronic fuel shortages have brought daily life to a standstill, with motorists forced to endure long queues at petrol stations.
This is actually something that happens once every 5 years, and then the people continue to languish in poverty.
Despite campaign promises to tackle the fuel shortages and revitalize the economy, Chakwera's administration has presided over inflation exceeding 20% for 3 consecutive years. The high inflation has been attributed partly to a shortage of foreign currency in banks, compounding the economic misery for ordinary Malawians.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commander, Malawi Defense Force.
Chakwera's failure seems to extend beyond economics. Amnesty International, in a pre-election report, delivered a scathing assessment of his presidency, stating that President Lazarus Chakwera's first term has fallen short on human rights, defined by broken promises in relation to the economy and living standards, impunity and civic space. The Human Rights Organization noted that despite promises to deal with impunity and operationalize transparency laws, none of these commitments were fulfilled. Instead, the administration passed the draconian NGO Amendment Bill in May 2022, limiting freedom of association while continuing to use cybersecurity laws to suppress dissent and harass journalists. President Chakwera voted at Malembo Primary School in his home village, 56 kilometers northeast of the capital Lilongwe, standing in line with local residents under heavy security. This contest represents a rematch between the two political veterans. Mutharika initially won the 2019 presidential election, but Malawi's Constitutional Court annulled those results, citing widespread irregularities. In a court-ordered rerun held in 2020, Chakwera defeated Mutharika with 58.57% of the vote. Voting proceeded largely smoothly, though Reuters reported delays in some stations due to problems with biometric fingerprint readers.
And again, as usual, there were also some reports that stated that they didn't receive adequate training.
Tuesday's elections also determined control of 229 National Assembly seats and 509 local government councillor positions. Catherine Omwando, NTV.
Well,